Tonight, we present the 2024 to 2025 financial report, which reflects a loss for the year. As outlined in the annual report, although the outcome is not what we would have hoped for, both the board and management executive are optimistic that with operational adjustments across the Society's estate and a gradual upturn in economic conditions, improved results are within reach. The board and management executive are currently reviewing the options for the restructuring of the Society to improve the financial performance in light of the continuing challenges in a retail environment, as well as widening economic environment. The board and management are acutely aware that any restructuring plan will not involve easy decisions, but will be necessary for the survival of the corporation in Chelmsford. Barry Wood, our Chief Executive Officer, will provide an in-depth presentation on the financial performance and address any questions from members. Following Barry's segment, we'll move to the Society Secretary, Dan McMeekin, who will take us through the key agenda items requiring members' approval, including the annual report and the remuneration report. Barry will then offer an update on the current trading position of the Society, after which Brendan Smith, Chief Operating Officer, will share insights into recent business developments. Later in the evening, Kevin Bennett, Head of Membership and Marketing, will speak about initiatives designed to support members throughout this challenging financial period and how the Society's efforts to assure that focus remains on the cooperation point of difference. Finally, Dan will oversee votes relating to the share of the profits distribution, directors' fees and expenses, auditors' appointments, and announcing the 2025 election results. Before I conclude, I wish to extend my sincere appreciation to my fellow directors, the management team, and all our colleagues for their hard work and dedication over the past year. Together, it is the people who make our cooperative a thriving and impactful service. Now I'll pass the proceedings to Dan to handle the formalities of the evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Dan McMeekin, Society Secretary. Great to meet you all. I'll be taking you through the formalities of tonight's annual general meeting. Initially, I'd like to take you through some general housekeeping for this evening as well. In accordance with the Society's rules, members have had the opportunity to submit a motion to tonight's meeting. I can confirm that no motions have been received. Voting tonight will also be taken by a show of hands unless a ballot is required. And each resolution, I'll request a proposer and a seconder. Before moving on to the business, members are required to confirm the minutes of the AGM, which everyone should have a copy of with their annual report. And may I ask members to confirm that that is an accurate record of the meeting. So if you could raise your hands for, against, and any abstentions. Thank you. For the final count of the votes in the Society elections tonight, we need to nominate a teller and a scrutineer. So can we do that now? And I'll suggest that Trina Skingle is the teller for this evening. So please could I have a proposer for that? Thanks, Anne. And then a seconder, please. Thank you. And then just a show of hands for. Thank you. Against. And any abstention. Now turn to the scrutineer, and I'll suggest Emily Smith be appointed this evening. So you can have a proposer again, please. Thank you. Seconder, and then thank you, and then a show of hands as well. For, against, and any abstentions. Thank you. Perfect. Would the teller and scrutineer like to join me outside for me to conduct the final vote count, and I'll now pass you back to the President to take you through the annual report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Right. Allow me to guide you through our annual report, emphasising key highlights along the way. There will be time for questions before we request members' approval for the report and financial statement. So starting on page 6, outlines our cooperative, environmental and social performance metrics. The process noted in areas like colleague training and economic involvement among members. It also details our gender pay ratio, which shows an improved mean differential of 5.64% and a median differential of 0.0. Pages 7 to 11 offer insight into the performance of each trading division. Page 7, you'll find the pie chart illustrating gross takings, distributions across different business areas. As expected, our food business remains our primary contributor. On page 8, a graph outlines trading profit and loss by sector, demonstrating our rebound from pandemic-related setbacks. Pages 9 to 11 show how we incorporate cooperative values and principles into practice, which Kevin will elaborate on later. Page 13, the remuneration report, transparently breaks down senior executive and directors' enrolments this year. A 3% increase in directors' fees is proposed, which recognises the need to ensure remuneration is fair for contributors to the society, whilst also ensuring that remuneration is not disappropriately burdensome on the society's resources. Page 14, the succession planning report, reaffirms our commitment to nurturing talent among colleagues and directors, supported by annual evaluations conducted by the Society Secretary. Page 16 to 17 details compliance with Cooperatives UK's Good Code of Best Practice, helping us to measure the effectiveness of our internal controls. Pages 18 to 21 outline the accounting policies adopted during the year. Now, turning to page 22 onward, the financial statement reveals gross takings of £101 million, with a trading loss of £746,000 and a retained loss of £1.34 million. Pages 24 to 26 contain the group and parent society's balance sheet and consolidated statement of changes in equality and the group cash flow statement. Pages 27 to 42 consist of supplementary notes to the financial statement, including the auditor's report on page 40 and 41. Barry Wood will now deliver a comprehensive review of the financial and operational position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can everybody hear me before I start? Excellent. Right, evening. I want to start this evening by paying tribute to the work that the Society's colleagues play every day of the year in serving our members, customers and the wider communities that your cooperative society operates in. I think it's very easy as cooperators to forget that the cooperative way of doing business genuinely makes a difference to the lives of the individuals and the communities that we operate in. It's not just a gimmick and it's not a tick box exercise as many businesses see the things that we believe in. For 158 years, the Society has put membership and communities first and foremost. And even in the difficult times, when it's tempting to cut the level of spend in these areas, your Society has continued to support communities and members. In 2021, the Society set up the Chelmsford Star Community Fund to ensure that the Society has got a mechanism to support communities. And since its inception, has supported 42 groups in total, with £68,000 worth of grants being awarded. Kevin will provide more detail later about some of the groups that we've been able to support in that time. Without the support of our colleagues and their efforts every day, this would not have been possible. But our colleagues not only contribute to the impact on our communities, many go that extra mile in assisting our members and customers. And it makes me proud to lead a society that has colleagues that do so. And receiving positive comments from members and customers calling out individual colleagues brightens my day in a very difficult world. Several examples of praise come to mind. A customer recently wrote in complimenting a member of our furniture team in Braintree, who had been, in her words, efficient, patient and professional when assisting her elderly parents when buying 2 chairs. From the Chelmsford quadrant, letter from another customer who had inadvertently left a debit card at the till point. Our colleague, on realising, managed to track the customer down in Marks and Spencer's, returning her card to her before she got to the tills and was embarrassed by not having the means to pay. The customer was over the moon. We also get positive comments from our food business. So to quote another customer who contacted us about a food store in Wickford, she said, "The team is always super friendly, helpful and collaborative with the customers. They engage with all their customers and know most by name. It is endearing to watch, especially their interactions with the more senior demographic, often having a little laugh and a joke over buying the newspaper and a packet of crumpets. A lovely team." Travel, just one example from the travel business. Your travel consultant has gone above and beyond expectations with all her excellent knowledge of US hubs. I have used Co-op travel in many places, including Nottingham and Clacton, and have to say the Chelmsford office is the far by best. And finally, our funeral team. They get the most feedback, as you'd expect, and this is publicly available on the Funeral Guide website. But to quote a couple of examples, we were very impressed with the personal touch we received from your family liaison officers in Danbury office. Both were helpful and considerate. I would highly recommend their services to others. Also, the service provided by the pallbearers was excellent. And then a final example of funerals, very to the point. And they said, friendly, helpful, thorough, efficient. Everything worked with no surprises on the day. And I think that those examples demonstrate how much our colleagues care about giving top service to members and customers. Before we move on to the main business of the evening, I feel it appropriate to mention the current crisis that is affecting all of the whole movement's food stores. While I can't comment on the exact circumstances around the cyber attack that the Co-op Group have faced, it has been widely reported in the press. You will have experienced, if you've been in our stores, the impact this is having on the availability of product in our stores. And certainly while out and about last week, we were getting comments from customers, when are you closing down? Are you closing down? It is desperate out there at the moment. We expect this to last a number of weeks. At the moment, the Society's food team are working hard to secure stocks of product from alternative sources. and hopefully that will begin to flow this week. But we know from experience, going back to the pandemic, that once stores have got to that position, it will take the distribution network some time to catch up. So while I can't put a number on it, what I think I can say with confidence is it won't be solved by the end of next week. We're still waiting some exact deadlines of when we can submit orders, but at the moment we haven't got that, hence why we are securing out stock from elsewhere. Turning now to the year that we are here to present. It's not a lot of good news, as the President has already impacted. When you put a group of retailers into a room at the moment, and probably forever and a day, it's not long before they start talking about how tough the trading environment is, the pressure being heaped on retailers by central government policy, and most frequently of all, the impact of the weather, good and bad. I was at a meeting of co-op CEOs just last week, and it's amazing how much more positive the conversations were due to the high temperatures that we'd received in the last week of April. Now, I can guarantee if we were in the same room today, it probably wouldn't be as positive given we've got no stock. But the conversation in that room on that day soon turned to the traditional concerns of what if we don't have a summer and we can't afford to have another summer like last year. And that, from our point of view, is what's frustrating at the moment. We have now had 3 weeks of cracking weather that we would normally dream of, only to find ourselves with no stock. The lack of good summer weather last year, without doubt, contributed to the depressed trading in our food stores last year. It also had an impact in our department stores, with fashion underperforming as people had no requirement for a new summer wardrobe. And this only compounded the challenges presented by the ongoing cost of living crisis. The conflicts that have taken place and continue to take place throughout the world continue to have an impact on the business environment, and in retail we continue to see that. Inflation continued to fall during the last year, which is good news, but ultimately it's still inflation, and households are still worse off than they were in 2021. And we've seen the discounters benefit from that, as the discounters are the only retailers really that are growing market share. Inflation is forecast to rise slightly this year, with the anticipation of prices rising as businesses grapple with national insurance and the national living wage increase that took effect on the 1st of April. The British Retail Consortium estimates that the British retail industry will incur an additional £7 billion worth of costs this year through the challenges levied by central government. National insurance is expected to cost retailers £2.33 billion more than last year. The national living wage, £2.73 billion. And the reformed packaging levy, £2 billion. And this is against the backdrop of several years of cost rises driven by government policy. An article in Retail Week recently stated that the retail margins have been on a decade-long decline, from 6.9% in 2012 to just 4.9% in 2023. The sector has been weathering a steady erosion of profitability, in the words of Retail Week. This is a trend that society has seen in its food business, but without the luxury of being able to remove layers of management and cost to attempt to mitigate the cost increases. You'd have seen in the media over the last year to 18 months the number of retailers that are taking management layers out of their stores, be it superstores, convenience stores, closing delicatessens, closing hot food counters, all in a bid to mitigate the cost increases that are being levied on retail. The Bank of England base rate has begun to fall after its 15-year high in 2023, but it still remains higher than most individuals with mortgage are used to. And this continues to affect the level of consumer confidence around personal finances. All of these factors have and continue to have an impact on the retail landscape, and will continue to do so through the next year. Turning to retail crime, again well publicised in the media, retail industry continues to experience high levels of losses through retail crime. with little sign of any real action from the government or the nation's police forces. Statistics released by the Office for National Statistics earlier this year show that in the 12 months to December 2024, there were 516,971 recorded shoplifting offences, and that compares to 429,873 the previous year, an increase of 20%. However, you then look at the Association of Convenience Stores survey, and they believe that that number recorded by the Office for National Statistics is actually some way short of the reality. Their crime survey shows incidents totaling 6.2 million in the same period. They allege that the difference between the 516,000 and the 6.2 million is due to underreporting. Retailers no longer report incidents to the police on the basis they know they're not going to attend or take action. The ACS put a number on that crime, 316 million last year, with a further 265 million being spent on the prevention and detection measures. And again, there is no guarantee that that will give you a return. How do you stop a group of 5 or 6 individuals coming in your store when you've got 2 staff and literally climbing over the counter and helping themselves to cigarettes? That's the reality of retail today. And you can go on YouTube and you can see CCTV images of events just like that across the country. From my point of view, what is particularly frustrating is the attitude of MPs towards the problem. So last year, I wrote to 3 MPs where we experienced high level of incidents, relaying the challenges that their constituents face every day when they come to work. Only 1 MP had the courtesy of replying to me. 2 just ignore the letter completely. To be fair to the one that did reply, I met the MP in the particular store on 3 occasions with the store colleagues, and she managed to get the police engaged. So some MPs, to be fair, care, others don't. I won't name any. But if they're not prepared even to acknowledge the issue with retailers on the ground and their constituents, people who put them in office, then are we really going to see a change in government policy? The challenges being presented by the economic environment continue to take their toll on the retail sector. 34 retail businesses failed in 2024, according to the Centre for Retail Research, with 7,500 stores impacted and 56,000 jobs. This is the highest number of stores and jobs affected since figures begun in 2007, with the exception of 2020, which was obviously impacted by the pandemic. Already in January and February this year, 7 retail businesses have failed, impacting 206 stores, 1,233 jobs. I think what's really interesting, you'll see on the screen there, this is Beals that's now been forced to close because of the increased costs this year from the national living wage and the national insurance. So you'll see that you might just about be able to make it out that they called it the Rachel Reeves closing down sale. That is the impact of the current Chancellor's policies on the retail industry. That appealed to my sense of humour, sorry about that. Throughout the year, at the forefront of the board and management's mind has been the cost of living crisis and how we can stay true to our founders' principles of adding value to members in difficult times. We've been supporting our colleagues and pensioners through double discount Fridays again to help them ease the burden of the financial pressures. In supporting our members, we've continued to offer 10% off on Monday to Friday in select stores, and with the remainder of stores now, they offer members prices, which are discounts on select prices across the store. Our investing members have also continued to be extremely understanding as we continue to manage the Society's share capital through the Society's rules, limiting the annual withdrawal rates and also requiring 90 days notice on withdrawals. As always, the continued loyalty and understanding of these members is much appreciated, and their continued investment allows the Society to invest in the business. So it's against that backdrop that we present the financial accounts for the year that ended on 25th January 2025. And hopefully you can see by that the challenges that we've faced that have led to the figures we're reporting tonight. To summarise the performance in the last financial year at sector level to start with, the food business, excluding fuel, bill payments and lottery sales, recorded a decrease in gross take-ins of 5.77% compared to the previous year. The decreases was due to a combination of the smaller trading estate after some disposals and the challenges presented by the summer referred to earlier. On a like-for-like basis, the core grocery turnover fell by 3.56%. Volume growth continues to be a challenge, not just for the society, but for the whole cooperative movement. And driving footfall to our stores continues to be the priority. And you would have noticed as you've been visiting stores locally that we've now got more parcel lockers in stores. Purpose of those is purely to drive footfall to those stores, those locations. In the year, the Society made the difficult decision to dispose of a number of unprofitable food stores, including South Ockenden, Broomfield and Duke Street. In the case of Broomfield and Duke Street, the Society owns freehold of these properties and now collects a market rent from these sites, which not only means we've reduced the impact of the losses from the stores, but we're now getting a decent return on the assets tied up in those properties. All of the stores were sold to independent retailers, protecting the jobs of the colleagues employed at those stores. A number of colleagues at the site decided to stay with the Society and have transferred to other stores. Trading profit in the food business fell year on year by 48% compared to the previous year. That's a result of the lower number of stores and an increase in losses from other stores. Department stores continue to be one of the biggest trading challenges that the Society has. And in 2024, gross take-ins in the department store business declined year on year by 4.2%, as customers continued to battle with the cost of living crisis and the method of shopping for those items changes still further towards online. Underlying trading losses in department stores fell in the year by 17%, totaling £396,000. It was lower than the previous year on the basis of the actions that we took to remove cost from the operation, taking out space from the retail floors in both Braintree and Chelmsford. The board and the management continue to explore all opportunities to eradicate the losses from the department store business. Travel's gross take-ins were positive in the year, increasing by 11.2% compared to the previous year. Previous year, you recall that we reported that we'd had staffing challenges. These were resolved early last year in both branches, and both branches were moved to more prominent positions. So if you've been into Chelmsford Quadrant, you'll see it's now on the ground floor on Molsham Street, and in Braintree, it's just in the door of George Yard. Far more visible and prominent areas than they'd previously occupied. However, despite the increase in gross take-ins, the additional cost of the fully staffed branches meant that trading profitability fell by 49.8%. A great deal of work is being put in to drive profitability this year in the travel to get closer to the pre-pandemic levels. Funerals, gross take-ins in funerals in the full year decreased by 4.5% year on year. The move of the Ingatestone funeral branch in late 2023 to adjacent to the food store in the village has worked extremely well, and we've seen the number of funerals conducted from that branch increase 31% year on year. The challenge facing the funeral business is the trend that continues, in my opinion anyway, for direct cremations, with the online operators increasing market share at the detriment to the traditional funeral directors. Now, to try and put this into perspective, in the last 10 years, the number of deaths recorded in the local authority area of Chelmsford has increased by 21%. The number of cremations conducted at Chelmsford Crematorium, based on the available information, shows in the same time scale, the number of cremations has fallen by 29%. Death rate gone up by 20%, number of cremations down by 29%. Our working assumption at the moment is that gap is accounted for by the low cost online operators for the direct cremations. And you would have all seen the adverts on the telly for pure cremations and the like. We know from talking to other funeral directors, you now get people walking into a funeral director's asking for a pure cremation. They have done that well in their model of a direct cremation and their brand name into the industry. Pure cremations has now become synonymous with an unattended funeral. We are currently working on how we try and steal that back on a local basis, trading on our reputation and the fact that we offer the same service but actually a higher level of care than a business that's potentially based hundreds of miles away can. Finally, rental income from our investment property portfolio decreased by 4.25% year on year. This was a result of the second floor of Coppleston Court, our offices above Duke Street being vacant for half the year. We also lost income from the flat above Canvey Island store, which we sold in December 2023, and several months' rent from the car sales site at the Barrow Road petrol station after the operator went into administration late last year. So that's an overview of business by business. Turning now to the high level performance. Society's gross takings totalled £101,054,000. That was a decrease on the previous year of £6,688,000 or 6.21%. Cause of that decrease, many challenges that I've outlined and the President referred to earlier, as well as obviously a smaller food store estate. On a like-for-like basis, gross takings fell by 4.4%, with the food business being the main contributor to the decrease. Cause of the decrease in food, lack of the summer weather we referred to earlier, increased competition, cost of living crisis, which is driving the market share of the discounters. Turning now to the gross profit or income, total 24,263,000. That's a fall of 3.53% year on year, based on the lower gross takings from the challenges that we've announced, and also retail crime. So retail crime, shoplifting has a direct impact on the gross profit that society earns in the food store estate. Operating costs fell in the year by 0.56%. That's a result of the smaller estate and actions taken to reduce some operating costs. Despite the actions to remove costs, some of our biggest areas of cost continue to increase well ahead of inflation. Personnel costs, which is society's single biggest cost, increased by 3.5%. That's despite a smaller estate and making job cuts in the department store business. The increase is being driven by the continued increase in the national living wage, and as a knock-on effect to that, increase of the employer's national insurance contributions and the apprenticeship levy. And this is before the latest increase in national insurance changes took effect in April of this year, with again a very above inflation rise in the national living wage. There was some good news in the year with a fall in utility costs, which was extremely welcome after many years of increases in utility costs. However, despite a fall in the year, utility costs are still £500,000 or 54% higher than in 2021, prior to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The cost of distribution is another very large cost that society has. This is the amount we pay for Co-op Group to deliver goods to our store. And that cost increases year on year. Overall, last year, the total cost fell by 6.5%, reflecting lower volumes and a smaller estate. But the cost per case actually increased substantially. One of the biggest concerns for the future is the level of operating costs, as we're already seeing supplier increase their costs on the back of the national living wage and the national insurance rises on the 1st of April. As the President referred to earlier, the society made an operating loss of 746,000 in the year compared to an operating profit of 522,000 the previous year. The priority at this point in time is to eradicate the losses from the loss-making stores or divest them, realising the goodwill held within those stores and therefore generating cash. Unfortunately, for many years, cooperative societies continued to trade loss-making stores on the basis that they could be absorbed by the other stores. Those days are behind us. No longer can we absorb trading losses for any of our outlets. Members will note on the accounts that the revenue account contains exceptional costs of £83,000. This is a result of several factors. One, the impairment of our freehold property at Rain Road, Braintree. Two, and secondly, the proceeds of our sales of Duke Street, Broomfield and South Ockenden, along with the cost and write-off of book values of these stores. The retained loss in the year was 1,343,000, being impacted by the operating loss just spoke about, the exceptional costs and a deferred tax position. The deficit before tax was 1,095,000, a position 1,010,000 worse than last year. Turning finally to net debt, the annual accounts show this year the level of net debt totaling 1,664,000, and as you'll see on the screen, that is higher than the last 2 years, reflecting the use of the society's overdraft and finance leases. So hopefully that's given you an overview of the challenges we've faced, the challenges we continue to face, and the high level numbers. So if members have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. Mr. Wallace.
Yeah, Malcolm Wallace.
Karen's just coming with your microphone, Malcolm.
Thank you. Yeah, Malcolm Wallace. Bear with me, I've got 3 or 4. And I really want to focus more on the future than where we've come from, because we are where we are, and that's it. But the President did say in his address that you would be reviewing the structure, and in the report it makes reference to you remain confident that through strategic initiatives and a focus on operational efficiencies, the society will return to better financial performance in the near future. Can you elaborate on those, please? And I don't want any confidences or secrets or anything like that, because we don't want to help anybody outside. But if you can just give us a broad outline of where you think we're going.
I think it's fair to say, if we look at our business plan at the beginning of 2024, it was substantially better than we achieved in the year, for all the reasons that I've outlined. What we have now got is a large number of food stores that are operating at loss. So we need to deal with those. But the problem is, it's not everybody now wants to buy food stores that are loss making. So that's a challenge we're looking at. How do we do it? We've closed this year 2 stores, literally just shuttered them. One in Calcutta Road, Tilbury, and one in Hawkwell off licence. We're still having to pay the rent and the rates, but that's a lot better than the level of losses. So their actions that in my time in the society, which is 38 years, I'd never seen. And I think you were on the board for many years, and I don't think you'd have seen them either. So we are now looking every store, what are its prospects for the future? Do we hold on to it? Is it going to get better? Is any prospect to get it? If not, it needs to go. The higher level issues are still being worked through. So what does that look like for the future? Can we continue losing 400, 500,000 pounds from department stores every year? That's not an easy question to answer. And you're tied into a lease in Braintree. We own the freehold at Chelmsford. Does anybody want big properties? So there's a lot of things that are on the table that we're trying to work through, given the impact of last year which was substantially worse than we expected. What does this year look like? And that's without the current crisis of we've got no stock on the shelves. So yes, we've done some numbers early part of this year, but are they now realistic? So management are working through those at the moment to then feed back to the board on, right, this is where we now think we're going to be, this is what we need to do. So obviously I can't add any more than that at the moment, but it's, yeah, the management and the board are just as concerned as you as a member as to what these results mean for the society going forward.
Thank you. Also, and I must say, when I saw Civic Street close, that really, really shook me. That was quite a blow. And what occurred to me is, I haven't been inside, but I assume they're selling similar things to what we used to sell. And two questions. One, were the staff given lots of consultation so they're aware of the situation? And I know you looked after that, that's great. But also, how is it that if they're doing a similar business to us, how come they can see being profitable, but we couldn't?
Where do I start? Firstly, all HR employment legislation was followed. All the employment legislation that we needed to follow was followed with. As you know, and many other members might know, we produce management accounts every 4 weeks. Every store manager gets their full profit and loss account every week. And there are no secrets. So every store manager will know every 4 weeks, what am I making? What am I losing? What do I need to change? So it shouldn't have been a shock when the staff, the colleagues in Duke Street were told we're selling the store. I think there's a lot of complacency because, going back to my previous comment, corporate societies traditionally will just go, it's a loss maker, never mind. It's not all about profit. But the problem is when you look at the results, you need to make a profit to actually meet the objectives. So, did every colleague know about the performance? I don't know. I would like to think a store manager would share that, but we've got a challenge. I think the better store managers do, to be fair. Perhaps some of the inexperienced might not. In terms of how can an independent make it work? To give you an idea, a store manager for us running Duke Street will cost us in excess of £40,000 a year. Then we'll have a couple of shift leaders on about 32 hours a week. So what the independents will do, straight away they'll take out the store manager level. Now the store managers have stayed with us, so they didn't have that cost. They will then work probably 6 in the morning, 10 at night themselves. It's their own business. So most of the area of cost they can save is on personnel. So they're not constrained by 48-hour working time directive. It's their business. It's in their best interest to reduce that personnel cost. And certainly talking to the guy that bought Broomfield, he's probably paying, again, most of the supervisors stayed with us. But if he takes on new people to supervise his store, he'll probably pay minimum wage, or national living wage as it is now. Whereas we would have been paying probably £1, £2 more than that. And over 110 trading hours a week, it adds up. This is a difficult one to quantify. But I've referred to the distribution cost that we pay Co-op Group. It's not cheap. We know that if we went to NISA, ironically, distribution costs for goods into our stores would be a lot cheaper. But what we don't know, if we went to NISA, for argument's sake, is what we would lose at the gross profit level in terms of retrospective rebates from suppliers. So independent retailers can get away with being more expensive than us. Co-op is already perceived as being expensive. But strangely enough, we were looking at wholesale costs today to try and get some stock in. And we were surprised at how much these independent retailers can make on products because they're price marked pack. So you get a price marked pack at 99p. It's potentially 20p cheaper than us. They've got a perception of being cheaper, and they're still making good margin. So I think the economics of those independent stores are just completely different from a multiple operator. Then you pile on our central costs, IT, marketing, personnel. They've got none of that. So, and when we when we sell a store, we strip out everything out of the profit and loss account that they won't incur. And lo and behold, before I send it to the agents, it's a profit. Just by stripping out the costs we know they won't incur. And that's before they start slashing their personnel costs. So it is sad, but that's just the way of the world now. And I expected a comment about Duke Street from someone. I'm glad it's here, Mal.
Thank you. Before I put my final question, can I suggest that, obviously there are going to be other closures and major changes taking place, and can I suggest to the board that it gives very high priority to consultation, engaging the trade unions and make sure everything goes according to, well, how it should be, quite frankly. But my last question is, it refers to Cooperatives East, and it says we're a member of Cooperatives East. Do we still send delegates there, and do you get reports from Cooperatives East?
I can't answer that, but Kevin's shaking his head.
The answer is no. Okay. Thanks very much.
Any further questions? Okay. I'll hand over to Dan for approval of the remuneration report and the accounts.
Thank you. Having heard from both the President and CEO and having had the opportunity to raise any questions, there are now a number of formalities. To start, may I ask for members to take an advisory vote on the remuneration report on page 13, and just to note here that there is actually a separate vote in relation to the directors' fees and expenses that we'll take slightly later. So could I have a proposer, please? Thank you. And a seconder, please. Thank you. And then a show of hands for, against, and any abstentions. Thanks for that. And then the annual report and financial statements have been presented to members. Everybody should have a copy in their hands. Therefore, may I request that the members formally receive the annual reports and accounts for the year ending the 25th of January 2025. And I'll need a proposer, please. Seconder, please. Thanks. And then a show of hands. For any against? And any abstentions? Thank you very much, and I'll pass back to Barry now for a trade-in update.
Okay, so as we stand here today, we are at the end of the first quarter. So as is normally the practice, we'll give you an update on our gross takings. Now, to be fair, when I put this together, beginning of last week, it's the 14 weeks to the 3rd of May, it was quite positive, it was quite upbeat, and then Co-op Group happened. So as at the end of the 14 weeks to the 3rd of May, our core food business was showing a like-for-like growth figure of 0.89%, and that was driven very much by the good weather we'd seen at the end of April. We were seeing an improving trend. Sadly, if we were to produce the same figures today, then that number is now a little bit different. The food services are 7.7% down. So the food services are the likes of National Lottery tickets, scratch cards, bill payments through the PayPoint system. They continue to decline year on year. Now, this is a trend that we've been seeing for many years. those services were typically the footfall drivers for our stores. People will come in to pay their rent, to pay their electric, to top up their gas, etc. We're no longer seeing that footfall, hence why the move to lockers to try and replace that. So total food, at the end of 14 weeks, was a like-for-like decrease of 0.5%. Most of it, as you see there, coming from the lower margin areas of the services. The fuel is 11.2% down in terms of like-for-like gross takings. We're also seeing volume decrease in fuel this year of a similar amount. So fuel prices stabilised, but we are seeing volume. So work's being conducted at the moment. It's how we drive volume. Given there's 2 petrol stations on Baddow Road, we are competitive on price. We can only put it down to actually people are trying to use their car less, cut down their fuel uses, either on green basis or to reduce cost. Department stores is currently trading down year on year by 17.6%, which is a concern. That's split between our own bought departments, which is 16.7% down. So that's furniture, housewares, our own bought fashions, and our concessions, which are 18.8% down. Things have improved slightly over the last couple of weeks, certainly in concessions, where clothing sales have increased as the sun's come out. Travel got off to a very difficult start this year, 7.6% behind, and with the decrease mainly coming from holiday bookings. We're still getting good footfall for currency, but the holiday bookings have been slow so far this year, and the last 2 weeks especially slow. Funeral business, gross takings down 3.3% against last year, but the number of funerals conducted is marginally down. I think it's about 1 when I looked at it, very little. And our property business generated an increase of 8.3%. This is due to rents being now collected against Broomfield and Duke Street following the disposals. What it is clear is at the end of the first quarter that the year is going to be extremely tough. With trading difficult in our core business, and that's where the concern always comes when our core business of food is struggling, and that's before we even think about the impact that we spoke about with the current crisis. So very brief update on the first 14 weeks. I'll now hand over to Brendan Smith, Chief Operating Officer, to take you through some of the business developments over the last year.
Good evening. I'm just going to spend some time now just giving a brief overview of the work undertaken in 2024 to develop our business. So we've continued our refit programme throughout the year, and pleased to say that we've refurbished 8 stores in 2024. So each refit really consists of internal and external decoration, new signage, internal and external, new lighting, improved and increased food to go offering, because that's obviously a market that we want to get into, additional refrigeration in some cases to meet demand, headsets with regards to security and colleague welfare in all locations, upgraded CCTV as required, and the most important thing is store-specific ranges and space allocation in all locations. So we tailor the offering to the area that we trade. So you can see there on the slides that 2 of the stores we've done were Hawkwell and Melbourne. And for those of you who know those stores, I think you'll agree there that, complete transformation of both of those. Next 2, Mungo Park and Beehive Lane, both underwent significant work. Mungo Park had all the fixtures removed, so they were historic fixtures and fittings in the store. That was completely removed, replaced with new, and the store, I believe, closed for 2 days. So a lot of work done in 2 days, lots of work by the team, and you can see there that we engaged with the community as part of the opening as well. Beehive Lane store just up the road, I think for me it's one of the biggest transformations there. We knew we had issues with, from a security point of view, with the 2 doors, from a shoplifting point of view. So we closed the one door, completely remodelled the store, the flow of the store internally, added additional refrigeration, and I think it's one of the best stores we've got now. Holbridge and Portsea Road. Holbridge was very much, its store was performing really well, but it was very much around protection. We trade against both Co-op Group and the One Stop in the town. But again, it was to bring it up to date, so we felt we competed on a like-for-like basis with the two competitors. Portsea Road, again, complete refit in the store, and in that one we actually didn't close at all. So the store teams worked around the clock on that one. And then the last two, Torquay Road and Badder Road. Again, a lot of work went into both of those, and yeah, I think you'll agree that, or I hope you agree that the results are very good. We now have 12 stores complete, and they're trading under the new cooperative banner there, and I think it places us in a really good position moving forward. What we've also done is to look at, Barry talked about services and bringing extra people to our locations. So not only as part of the refit programme, but across the whole estate, we've enhanced the services across the estate. So there's just some examples there: hot and cold food to go drinks, Quadient lockers, which in the main are sited outside of the locations to drive footfall to those. And the initial evidence there is that they're being well used and successful. They generate both a ground rent and a pence per parcel income, so it's a real positive for us on that. Convenience retailing, I think we said it. We may have said it last year, but it's no longer just about bricks and mortar. If you look at the quick commerce, order now, get it in so many minutes, get it in under an hour, get it in 20 minutes, is showing no signs of slowing up. So we have to be in it along with any other convenience retailer. It's expected now from convenience retail. If you look at it there, so Uber Eats is the real success story. 26 locations introduced in 2024. And the stores now are generating around 800 orders a week just from that platform. So somebody goes online, orders their food, it goes through to a handset in store. The stores pick that. It's then picked up by a courier and delivered to people, generally within an hour. There are issues, but generally within an hour. So we now operate Snappy Shopper, Uber Eats, and more recently Just Eat. And that equates to around 2% of our weekly core turnover. So that's really just to highlight how important that is. Department stores. Some of this has been alluded to earlier. So the decision was taken earlier in the year to remodel both stores to make the best use of space and ultimately ease of operation and efficiency. So in Chelmsford, we closed the top floor, brought the furniture downstairs, re-merchandised pretty much the whole store, and yeah, generally well received. Braintree, we did something similar later in the year, where we closed the ground floor of the part of the building that we own, and again, that was all compressed into the existing store. As part of that, we also took the opportunity to relocate travel. So you'll have seen, hopefully, in both stores now, that much better location, high footfall areas, and last year travel turnover was on the up. And then finally, business development. So it's not just physically what we do with regard to buildings and alike. Our colleagues within funerals have undertaken 365 hours of professional development. So this is very much centred around the funeral plan pre-need. So this is all about improving their skills, legislation, and but again, 365 hours of professional development. That's a lot of learning to undertake. But ultimately, it's to enhance our reputation further. And that's it. So, any questions? Oh, I nearly got away with it.
Fine, me.
Don't worry.
On the developments, now I know we've got to invest because that's good, so there's no criticism of that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But when's that rolling programme? Does it ever come to an end? And will there be a period where we are modern and we are selling and we're not spending out a hell of a lot of money remodelling? You know, in other words, we've got a period to advance. When do you envisage that taking place?
I think if you look at the level of spend that we've done, just on the 12 stores we've done to date, 8 last year and the 4 the year before, there's varying levels of spend. So where the society has historically invested in those stores previously, it has been decoration, new sign, and that's pretty much it. So but then in some of the stores that need further investment, the spend is a lot more. If I'm honest, I think that we'll always have to invest in our stores and keep, because trends change. If you look at the last 2 years, they change. So I think once we get them in a position where they're modern and alike, then I think it will be smaller investment rather than large wholesale. Okay. And over to Kevin.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to start by thanking everyone again for coming out tonight on what looks to be a lovely evening and forgoing their cold beer and their Knickerbocker glories. And everyone watching at home over the coming weeks, have one for me. So the year that we're talking about is the second full year where we've been offering additional discounts for all of our members. Barry mentioned this at the start. 2 different types of member benefits are now available depending on which shop, either a flat 10% discount during weekdays or specific product discounts throughout, which is up to a third off. These instant discounts have provided more immediate benefits, which members have appreciated. Obviously, it's come out the one pot, which is why last year the dividend rate was slightly lower. I think most members understand that. But how have these instant rewards been received by our membership? Well, in short, members are now spending more money with us. In the last few years, the amount of business coming from our members has increased from 10% of our total trade to nearly 15%, and it continues to grow. The instant rewards have also encouraged 4,500 new members to join us in the year. It maintains a rate more than double what we saw prior to the instant member rewards being introduced. So it seems word is also spreading to new people. This year we set ourselves the ambitious target of increasing the amount of active members, these are members using their card at least once every couple of years, by 5%, and we increased it by 6.88%. So it's encouraging people to come back to using their membership card. It seems that when it comes to doing our members at least, we're doing pretty good this year. One area where we are struggling, however, is encouraging our members to use more than one business. So you'll get people using their card food or the department stores or the travel agent, but not necessarily a combination. So the number of members using more than one has actually come down a little bit. So we're going to address that in the coming months. We've got additional discounts for new members coming into our department stores, so they'll be getting 10% off in the housewares department. We've got more coupons coming into place, which will be offering incentives to encourage people from one business to the other. And we're also aware that a lot of the people now don't even bother bringing a wallet out with them. So how do we use their membership cards if they haven't got it with them? So whilst companies were popping out apps left and right, we went old school in the year and trialled some key fobs. We sent them out to 4,000 members and colleagues to trial. We learned some lessons, we made some tweaks, and they are now available to all new members coming in as an additional option. It just means if they are paying on their phone, they do at least have their keys with them, hopefully, to get back home, and they can still use their membership card. If you haven't got one, incidentally, and you would like one, there's an email address on the screen and you can just give us a shout. Okay, moving on to some of the community involvement that we've done over the year. We have enjoyed working with Essex Community Foundation. They manage our community fund. Over the year, our membership committee have selected 7 local charities to award just over £20,000 to in total. The grants vary in amounts from between £2,000 and £5,000. The panel are very careful to consider things like the area in which the businesses or the charities operate. We like to make sure that we cover all of our trading area. We like to consider things like the types of people and the causes that they're covering. And we also take into account our own cooperative values and how do these charities and community groups align with those. These particular causes chosen in the year have kept charities open through core costs. We've built gardens for school lessons. We've delivered environmental workshops. We've used theatre to build confidence in youngsters who would otherwise slip through the cracks. And along with other projects and community work, which are benefiting what we estimate to be about 22,000 individuals in Essex. That's been through 44 grants, which have assisted 42 groups. There was 2 groups that achieved 2 grants. We've also built up an endowment fund, which means that in the future, this will be self-funding and we'll be able to continue offering grants without putting any more of our yearly money into it. In this total, since we've been operating now in 2021, nearly £68,000 has been donated in total. And you'll see on the screens the primary beneficiary, hopefully you can see that okay, is for children and young people. But we're also benefiting people with a wide range of mental, physical, financial difficulties or who are just in difficult situations. The primary issue our donations have dealt with have been providing learning and advice and mentoring and supporting those with a range of disabilities. Other issues have been supporting those going through domestic abuse, food poverty, homelessness, social inclusion, to name just a few. Now, the Community Fund was introduced post-COVID as a new, quicker way to assist local groups. It took the place of our pre-existing Charity of the Year and the Community Card scheme. We made the promise to continue to support any of the community card groups that remained active, and at this point we still have 80 of them, just about, still using their community card groups. And in the year we awarded just over £2,000 to these guys. But as you would expect with us, it's not just about providing people money. We also like to get stuck in and make a real difference where we can. We funded a cooperation in nature project with Year 3. We work quite closely with them in Writtle. You just have to go to the store now to see the work of their projects up on the wall, and that will hopefully remain there for a generation or 2 to come. We've donated water to cover a number of school sports days, and we also covered a water station at the Baddow Half Marathon. We've been keeping our communities tidy in parks, estates, and in one case on the beach. And it wouldn't be a presentation from me without including a picture of one of our directors dressed as a fruit. And this year we have Pauline Dodd as a pineapple. Congratulations, you made the cut. And this was during our annual event in Braintree to support healthy eating. We've worked with councils to ensure no elderly residents went hungry over Christmas. We've worked with churches to make sure that bored school kids over the summer holidays have got activities to keep them out of trouble. And that's not to mention any of the food tastings, refreshment donations, countless hampers, book swap stations, and twice a fortnight coffee mornings, which we do all year round anyway. We found out late last year that 2025 would be the United Nations Year of the Co-op. Co-ops all over the world were tasked with talking about how they build a better world. We took that as an opportunity to not only talk about what we're doing now, hopefully, to build a better world, but also what we've done in the past, and also to improve potentially new ways of helping community groups and charities in the future, and to champion the individuals that live in the places where we operate. Which is why we started the year talking more about things like British farmers and fair trade, 30 years of fair trade, in fact. It's why we gave our members the chance to have a virtual tour of the Rochdale Museum, birth of the modern co-op movement. And we also had the video of our first 150 years, hosted by this wannabe TV news reporter you'll see on the screens. It's also why this summer we're holding our second gathering of community fund beneficiaries. We're going to be investigating ways that they can work together more. When we did this last time, it actually uncovered some surprising benefits for each other. They could signpost people that they work with. It could open up new services and new benefits. And it really lived up to our mantra of helping those who help others. So we'll be doing that again in late June. And it's also why we rescued the Regional Pride of Essex Awards. After they've been gone for over a year, they provide a great opportunity for local heroes and courageous teams or community stars to be recognised for their work. Now in their 30th year, the Pride of Essex Awards have been doing that for 3 decades. So if you know of any inspirational youths or unsung heroes, or perhaps even a star of Essex worthy of a Lifetime Achievement Award, if you could consider nominating them on the email address, or the website rather, you'll see on the screen, that would be terrific. The deadline is September. Also coming up later this year, we're back at the Little Legs Festival. The jury is still out on which director I will get dressed up as a banana. We'll be marking Co-op Fortnight with a co-op food tasting, specifically wine and cheese. That's on the 3rd of July. Tickets are already on sale. You can get them through our website. They will be £10 per ticket for members. It's actually very worth it if you've ever come to one of these events in the past. We've also got a series of litter picks coming up. The first one being on the 27th of June in Chelmsford Park, followed by one on the 28th of June doing a river clean-up nearby. And there's going to be more to come as well, I'm sure, but for now we're going to continue providing benefits to our members every single day, as well as the 2 member price discounts that we discussed at the start of this presentation. Members can also benefit from the new Cutting Costs Not Convenience campaign, which covers all customers to our stores, meaning it's never been a better time to be shopping for value for money in our co-op shops. Coming up in the next presentation, Dan's going to be talking about the results of the elections. If anyone here is interested in standing to become an elected member, we would love to hear from you. Anyone watching the videos in the future too, you could find all the information on our website. Also, increasingly, it's becoming useful for us if you wish to vote from home. So if you aren't on the postal voting register yet, you can do so by visiting the webpage on the screens now. I think that's it. Yeah. Has anyone got any questions? I see Val's got her hand up. If you could just hold on for the microphone, please, Val.
I'm just getting a bit worried on a personal level because I understand the Coval Lane car park has to close event, and that's where I'm closed, Brown Park, so I think I might have to leave. I don't know if anyone's got any updated information on that.
You won't be alone because we're all involved in there as well.
So basically, follow Barry. He's going to be breaking down barriers and going the wrong way up a one-way system. Okay, well, that's good then. I'm finished, so that's another presentation down. Val, hopefully we'll be okay. Thank you very much indeed.
Hello again. As per the annual report, given the trading performance and financial results of the last year, as well as the society's ongoing investment in discounts at point of sale, as I think it's been mentioned a couple of times this evening already, the Board of Directors continues to recommend a share of the profits payment of £2 per 1,000 points. Therefore, can I ask members to approve that resolution? So firstly with a proposer. Thank you. And then a seconder. Thank you very much, thank you. And then a show of hands for, against, and any abstentions. Thank you. Moving on to our next resolution. This is just a breakdown. Again, this is in the annual report as well, but a bit of a breakdown to the directors' fees and the expenses. Having reviewed the rates, the board is proposing a 3% increase in relation to both the fees and expenses, in line with inflationary measures. The rationale behind this as well is to ensure that the positions remain attractive for members to constitute, and also balance the increased costs that the society will have. In respect of the expenses, the board also seeks to ensure that no member is financially burdened as a result of the participation within the democratic structure. And whilst the expenses increase as a minor, it reflects an ongoing commitment to ensure that members are able to participate without any financial constraints. Just the expenses are there, and again, these are in the annual report as well. So the daily allowance has increased again, quite minor, from £30 to £31. Half daily allowance has increased from £15 to £15.50. Daily expenses rate from £50 to £51.75, and overnight accommodation from £140 to £145. With this, can I ask members to approve the directors' fees and expenses as outlined? A proposer first. Thank you. And a seconder? Anyone? Thank you. And then a show of hands for. Thank you. Against? And any abstentions? Thank you. So members have to approve requested to approve the subscription to the Chelmsford Star Co-operative Party. Founded in 1917, the National Co-operative Party has been championing cooperation success across the UK for over a century. In 1943, Chelmsford Star Co-operative Party was established, further strengthening the values of cooperation within the community. The party plays a pivotal role in supporting the society and advocating for cooperatives, mutual organisations and voluntary groups. Like us, they firmly believe that collective efforts lead to greater achievements than working alone. Since its inception by directors in 1943, the party has remained an integral part of our heritage. As per the society rules, we seek member approval to continue our subscription to Chelmsford Star Co-operative Party. And as outlined, the subscription for the year to May 2026 is £1,000. So could I request a proposer? Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you. And then a show of hands for. Against? And then any abstentions? Thank you. The Board of Directors again recommends the reappointment of Rickard Luckin as the Society's auditors for the year ahead. Can I ask for members' approval of this? So if I could have a proposer. Thank you. And a seconder, please. Thank you. Sorry, a seconder, sorry. Thank you. And then hands for. Against? And any abstentions? Thank you. Moving on now to the elections for 2025. We'll first start with the Board of Directors. In the 2025 elections, 479 ballots were cast. In relation to the board, there were 2,394 available votes, and 359 of them available votes were unused. There were 5 vacancies on the board, 4 with a 3-year term and 1 with a 1-year term. I can confirm the following individuals are elected to the board. Ollie Young with 357 votes, David Van Sertima with 293 votes, Stephen Birmingham with 267 votes, Jake Shan with 258 votes, and Tony Gunn with 242 votes. The unsuccessful candidates were Paul Boscher with 231 votes, John Pioli with 210 votes, and Kieran Franks with 175 votes. In relation to the membership committee, there are 479 available votes with 37 unused votes. There was one vacancy, which was a 2-year term. I can confirm that Susie Nankerville was elected with 169 votes. 169 votes. The unsuccessful candidate is Lois Bowser, Kieran Franks, and Tony Gunn. And just for completeness, Tony obviously was elected to the board anyway. Lois Bowser and Kieran Franks are thereby appointed to the Members' Council as per the Society's rules. Congratulations to all of the successful candidates. Can I ask that you briefly stand so that members could see who you are? Just so people can see. I feel like most people know everyone. Thank you. Thank you. I'd also like to thank all candidates for standing for the elected roles to make this year a contested election. I'll now pass you across back to Tony to conclude this evening, but thank you very much.
We're going to try any questions? No. Oh, that's all right. So I thought I was going to be fired a load of questions at people, isn't it? Right. I trust this evening has provided valuable insight into the operations and development of your society. With no further official business to attend to, I now bring this meeting to a close. But first I will say well done to all the colleagues that were voted onto the board of directors, and commiserations to those that weren't. So thank you for being part of this evening, and I wish you all a pleasant journey home. Good night. Before 8 o'clock at the car park. Thank you all.